So no one will be surprised about this, but Arsenal have appealed the red card from Miles Lewis-Skelly. We know that he was sent off against Wolves. We went down to 10 men. They did too after Joe Gomez picked up his second yellow card, 10v10, and Arsenal won the game 1-0. I actually thought Arsenal played really well, even when down to 10 men, and Graham and I explained why on Tactical Insight that came out yesterday. So go have a look at that. There's also a lot of outrage, a lot of uproar. Referees are talked about very regularly in terms of the controversy, in terms of the quality of their decision-making, the standards they show, and all these things. That's a regular conversation. What's not a regular conversation is when a decision blows up the kind of football internet, quite as big as the Lewis-Skelly one did. And there's been some over the years, but this was one of them. This was one of the kind of really big talking points. And there's been so much fallout from it that I could just sit here and repeat it all. But I think we need to just go into the new news, talk about this appeal, what we understand of the appeal, but also the latest with Michael Oliver, who, of course, the PGMOL put a statement out about on Sunday. We did discuss that again on Tactical Insight. It's been covered extensively on AFTV. But we need to understand whether we think this is going to be overturned, what grounds Arsenal have for it being overturned, and where we kind of are with Michael Oliver in general, because apparently we won't be doing Arsenal Man City, and I'll be reading some tweets about that as well. Now, on Lewis-Skelly, been widely reported the situation with the red card and the appeal, but this in the Standard, and it's Simon Collins with the news saying Arsenal submit Miles Lewis-Skelly appeal after controversial Wolves red card. They've lodged the appeal. Lewis-Skelly was shown a straight red midway through the first half. We know about all that. Arsenal players were left visibly stunned by referee Michael Oliver's shot decision. Dismissal was confirmed by VAR Darren England, who felt the challenge constituted, quote, serious foul play. Calls met with universal criticism from pundits and commentators and left Mikel Arteta, quote marks, absolutely fuming. We know about all that. As it stands, the academy graduate Lewis-Skelly will serve a 3-game ban. So that means he would miss Man City at home, I believe Newcastle away, I think it's Leicester away. It's actually said here in the article. If successful, the appeal could see the fullback's punishment dropped entirely. We also know, as mentioned here in the article, that police are investigating quote, threats and abuse directed at referee Oliver. By the way, that quote was just me quoting the actual statement, not me sort of pretending that or acting like I don't believe in the threats. I've actually said on my own channel that I do believe that the threats are real. We've seen how vile, social media can be. And I believe that, while Oliver made a terrible decision, and I do believe that there's something personal between him and Arsenal. I do believe that. I don't think that for 1 second merits abuse, threats, or anything like that. Some stuff has come out also yesterday about, I think, threats he'd received, but post a Man United-Liverpool game, if I'm not mistaken. So games that had nothing to do with Arsenal. And that's quite frankly unacceptable. We don't want to be in a situation where anyone is having to deal with that in their, in their professional lives, but in lives in general. It's important to cover that. Now, I think what Arsenal will basically be saying here is that it was a cynical foul. It's as yellow card gets. I haven't heard anyone. I've listened to so many YouTubers. I've listened to, Troy Deeney on TalkSport. I've listened to former players, Alan Shearer, whoever it might be, Jamie O'Hara, Tim Sherwood. So many people across so many forms of media have had their opinion on it. And yes, there's the odd person on Twitter, and there'll be some people in the comments, but largely, no one thinks this is a red card. I think the first I've heard is some people go, well, you can see why. But I still think that's going too far. And I think when you slow motion things, it can make it look so much worse. And as Turkish said on February, Arsenal can really dramatize the situation. I think it's genuinely 50-50 whether they get this. I think there's a chance that the PGMOL and who is going to decide? That's one thing I probably should know. Let me know in the comment section below if you do know, because it wasn't quite decided. Is it the Premier League? Is it? Because PGMOL would always back themselves. I think it's the Premier League. I think it's an independent panel on the Premier League. I don't know. Anyway, they might feel that with everything that's gone on with Michael Oliver and all the scrutiny at the PGMOL, that the best thing to do is actually just to back them. Or they'll see it the way basically the whole footballing world has seen it and go, yeah, it shouldn't be a red card and we're going to overturn it. Now, apparently, according to Sammy Mockbell, Arsenal have used Bruno Fernandes' overturned decision as sort of evidence for why this Lewis Skelly one should be. Now, if you remember, Bruno Fernandes says, did he kind of slip or something? But basically, he was going to press Maddison, I think. And as Maddison gets away, I can't remember if he quite slips or something, but he sticks a foot out and catches him quite high, and he's given a red card. And I'm going to be really honest. I thought it was harsh. I don't think you see those in the game. I thought it was accidental. But I could see why he'd given it, because it was a really kind of reckless kind of kick out. But then I think there could be some rival fans that'll go, so why is that different to Lewis Skelly's? I think the difference is that the Lewis Skelly one was quite clearly a tactical foul. It wasn't, it was just a trip. I mean, and the thing is, when you start looking at intention, then it all gets a bit. But the point is, if people are saying the Lewis Skelly one is similar to the Bruno Fernandes one, then they should be overturned, as the Bruno Fernandes one was. So I do think when you start pulling other examples, you can start sort of seeing evidence both ways. The reality is, look, it was a yellow card. I also think some of the conversation, and I was part of this, I said this on Tactical Insight, I was part of this, some of this is the worst red card I've ever seen. I think that goes a bit far. I don't think it's the worst decision I've ever seen. I think Arsenal have been subject to worse. I think the Trossard second yellow at Man City is genuinely worse. I think the Martinelli double yellow against Wolves is genuinely worse. I think the elbows swinging and them not being red cards are genuinely worse. But I think this was a bad one. And I think where the point's slightly been lost in a lot of the conversation across the football media space about this red card, I think where people are slightly, for me, missing the point a little bit is in the fact that it's not just that Michael Oliver pulled out the red card. It's that he did it so quickly. It's that it felt like he wanted to make that decision. That's where I've got an issue with it. As much as the decision is a bad one, it's also, and I think, was it Troy Deeney? Someone made that point. Maybe it was Keith Hackett on TalkSport. I've watched a lot of people's opinions on this. And someone said, maybe it was Keith Hackett said, he didn't take time to just replay it in his mind and just come to the conclusion, which should never have been a red anyway. But even if you give a yellow and you're saying to the VAR team, just have a little look at this, it looked a bit high. He put himself in a difficult situation, and a lot of people are blaming VAR, but VAR put in a difficult situation because their rule, and VAR, it's important that they didn't come in and overturn it, but the way they are managing it is, it's got to be clear and obvious. And I think it was clear and obvious, but then that in itself is a difficult thing to understand. I remember, Kai Havertz, the penalty he won against Man United last season, Saliba on the halfway line. Saliba was giving a yellow card against Bournemouth. Havertz goes down, we were given a pen. I thought it was probably a red. I thought it probably wasn't a penalty, but I didn't think it was clear and obvious, and those were overturned. So it's all a bit of a mess, really. And I think we can just find ourselves a bit hard done by on quite a few of these things. So where are we now? Well, there was this, and let me just grab my phone again. There was this, let me have a little look about Michael Oliver. Right. Martin Ziegler saying in the Times, Michael Oliver won't referee Arsenal versus Man City as police guard family home. I mean, it's ridiculous we've got to a position where police need to guard his family home, people. I mean, come on, that shouldn't be the case. Darrening, and I'm saying it shouldn't be the case, that the abuse shouldn't be, the threat shouldn't be to that level, my word. Darrening also not involved. The pair are involved in the controversial sending off of Lewis Skelly. Right, that's from Martin Ziegler. I'll be really honest. I really don't want to live in a world in which referees can't have certain games. I think then that all gets really messy, and then every club will have a claim to a certain referee, and what about this and what about that, and it all gets really, really messy. So I don't want to be in a world where Michael Oliver should never referee Arsenal games again, because that's just ridiculous. But I do feel the nature of some of these decisions, and I do feel that that the heightened. Yeah, the heightened situation, how toxic it's got, how venomous it's got, and how I just think how inexplicable some of the decisions have been that Michael Oliver's given against Arsenal. I do think that, and I only speak from the Arsenal perspective, I'm sure more neutral football fans can come in and tell me why this is wrong, but I do think the best thing is that he's just moved away from Arsenal games for a little bit at least. Because it's such a toxic situation, and we don't feel like it's all particularly fair. And the relationship there is kind of too broken between the club and the referee. But again, like Chelsea have this with Anthony Taylor, and every other club can have a claim to something, right? So how far does that go? And I don't really like the idea of that. I don't believe that Michael Oliver should never referee an Arsenal game again. But I would like there to be conversations going on between the club, Michael Oliver, and the PGMOL, however that happens, where they're all pulled into a room. Even if you could get Mikel Arteta in there, and you say, look, please explain these. And you got it with Howard Webb, and you do it in front of Howard Webb and others involved. And you say, look, can you guys explain to me why we've had 3 decisions, Martinelli, Trossard, and now this one, Lewis Skelly, where we've had 3 decisions go against us that we've never, ever, ever seen given ever before and since in the Premier League. And they've all happened with Michael Oliver. But it's not only Michael Oliver. It was Anthony Taylor, I think, that gave the Brighton penalty. And Saliba touching the ball wasn't enough of a reason to overturn that one. So it's all messy. And we've spoken about it so many times now that at this point you just want it resolved, but it's not a quick fix either. So let me know your thoughts, everyone. Arsenal have appealed the red card, and I think it's really hanging in the balance. I think the Bruno Fernandes high boot and that being overturned could do us a favour. But I just feel that the anger is so... It's so, like I said, heightened that I could just imagine them back in the PGMOL. But let's see. Anyway, gathering my thoughts there. But I hope you... I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you think this will be overturned? And if it is overturned, should he be starting? I mean, I think he'll be rested anyway against Girona. He's played a lot of football. But Calafiori did well, came off the bench the other day, got the winning goal. I think Lewis Skelly deserves to keep his place, but it's a different prospect against Man City. So be interested to know. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel so you can get updates like this on everything happening in the Arsenal space. Catch you soon.